Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Hi everybody, Peter Clayton behind the camera. He keeps on saying to me, "Are you ready?" I'm always ready. Well, I try to be, Pete.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, you're good.
I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Welcome to the garage, the court of public opinion. Gary, my one-person audience is here.
Absolutely, and head of the fan club.
God bless you, sir. God bless you. Terrible times. It's hard to imagine in this wonderful world in which we live that there aren't terrible times somewhere, but Myanmar, I think what they're trying to say is Burma. Terrible, terrible, terrible. 1,700 people killed, and they're still counting. Mandalay, Rangoon, Bangkok into Thailand, 7.7 on the Richter scale earthquake. Now that is big. And it was only down 10 kilometers or something, which is devastating. Our hearts go out to you all. But one thing I will say to you, we are sitting here, I don't want to worry anybody, but we are sitting here on the Glen Osmond fault line, right here in this very garage, with the permanent threat of a quake. Now, the thing that gives me a little bit of confidence is that Professor Ian Plimer, renowned, famous geologist, lives one street that way. Now, I don't think he'd live up here knowing what he knows if there was any real problem. But I wouldn't live anywhere else. I really wouldn't. Well, how am I going to take the garage somewhere? The federal election has been called. The show's on the road for 5 weeks. For 5 weeks, they'll be in our face, promising us this, that, and the other thing, new schools, hospitals, school crossings, I don't know. Kissing babies. No baby will be safe for 5 weeks. An opportunity to change things. An election, in my opinion, to put an end to a lot of this nonsense. I mean, the woke, the waste, the welcome to country. I don't think we should do it again. The polls are saying it's too close to call, 50-50. I find that very hard to believe, that it is close. Looking at Peter Dutton on Thursday night, I firmly believe that he could have this won. I admit I have had my doubts. I've talked to Pete and others about it in the past. But if he doesn't stumble or faff around, I reckon he's got it nailed. I don't know about you, but I want a common sense energy policy, meaning cheaper electricity, meaning a lower cost of living. Look, it can't be a coincidence. 3 years ago, my electricity bill was $1,600 a quarter. It is now, after changing supplier 3 times, looking for a cheaper deal, better deal, it's $4,760 a quarter. $1,600 to almost $5,000 in 3 years. Labor came in 3 years ago on the promise of cheaper electricity, and they started their renewables journey, upon which they insisted we come along 3 years ago. It isn't cheaper, and as a consequence, the cost of everything, including the cost of living, has gone through the roof. And they have the hide to want a second go. Speaking of going, we don't need 3 flags, just one, please. The national flag, thank you. Don't underestimate or disrespect the importance of the Australian flag. or the esteem in which we hold it. No more endless welcomes to country, no men in women's sport or in their change rooms and bathrooms. Dutton's policy of retaining 20% of our gas for domestic use is perfectly logical and should have been in place years ago. They've done that in Western Australia very successfully. And the strange industry criticism, the gas industry, that such a thing would artificially drive down the price of gas. Who cares as long as the price comes down? That, along with accelerated exploration, should do the trick. As Donald Trump said, drill, baby, drill. I like the small business $30,000 instant tax write-off. Great idea. Introduced by the Liberals at $20,000 and recently quietly abolished by Labor. To be increased and introduced if the Liberals win. That's got to be good. But that's very quiet. I haven't heard anybody else talk about that. They must think we're really dumb, you know. Just days after the government ordered ACCC inquiry into supermarkets, the 6th or 7th inquiry, by the way, the inquiry which emphatically stated that there was no price gouging by the big two, Coles and Woolworths. The Prime Minister's big announcement on Sunday, this Sunday just gone by, price gouging is a crime and will be severely punished. Well, before you punish it, you'd better be able to define it. He'd been asked a couple of times what it meant, and he couldn't answer the question. We said taking the mickey or something. No. For example, let me tell you here some facts. Woolworths, one of the big two. I mean, they've got something like 68%, Coles and Woolworths, of the market. But there's plenty of competition also established by the ACCC. Woolworths make $2.70 profit for every $100 in sales. Now think about that. $2.70 does not sound like gouging to me, or profiteering. 2.7% profit on sales. And that, of course, goes to the shareholders. Don't forget that. The rest of that money, what's left, goes to electricity, rents, fuel, labour, state and local and federal government taxes. The big one, of course, is company tax. $6 out of every $100 in sales goes to the government. If anyone is gouging, it is the government, for which they just may be severely punished. Now, I remember I said to you last week that the inquiry, the one we're talking about at the supermarkets, looked really like window dressing. And that they would keep inquiring into supermarkets until they, the government, got the findings it wanted. I wonder why they don't have an inquiry into the real cause of the cost of living. That is the cost of electricity. Great multiplier. Here's the question. Look, I'll even give you the question that you, Albo, would not dare ask. What effect has the rollout of renewables had on the price of everything, including electricity? What an inquiry that would be. What an interesting finding that would be. Anthony Albanese has a strange view of things. Causes the problem and then hands out band-aids, which he calls relief. On the insiders, just this last Sunday, he refused to admit that Peter Dutton's approach to fixing the cause rather than treating the effect was in fact the right approach. Well, yeah, who am I kidding? He couldn't very well say that, could he? No, but a very skillfully asked question, and not too cleverly dodged. Just on the opposition reply or response to the budget, halving the excise on fuel, cutting it now from 50 cents a litre to 25 cents a litre, is overwhelmingly better than Albo's 70 cents a day tax cut in 18 months' time, mind you. I would be inclined to scrap the excise altogether if I ran the show. And by the way, it's a myth that they spend the petrol excise on the roads. They don't. Government has made every petrol bowser a tax collector. That goes for Liberal and Labor. Half of every dollar we spend on petrol goes to the government to probably waste. And they do waste billions. The NDIS, capital works of any description, infrastructure, never on time or budget because of the cosy relationship with the crooked CFMEU. Anyway, cutting the cost of petrol and diesel now brings immediate personal and business and corporate benefits and relief. Everything we buy is transported. Cutting that cost should be reflected in everything we buy. It's not inflationary, and it's now. Now, I've heard the argument petrol tax, excise tax goes to maintain the roads. Well, that's rubbish. It just doesn't. It goes straight into consolidated revenue. It's not what they call hypothecated or whatever that means. Governments must understand that we are not here slaving away just to pay tax. Both parties should get off our backs. Now look at this list. And I've got to thank Ben Fordham for this. Can I reach across here and just grab this? His excellent program on 2GB. Ben Fordham, he's a star. He went through this list of taxes that we pay. It's good. In fact, I'll keep this and repeat it often. Let's start with income tax, which, by the way, was introduced in the war years, Second World War years, as a temporary tax. Temporary. Income tax, fuel tax.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Excise, and that's on beer, cigarettes, spirits and wine, although they call it a wine equalisation tax for some reason, same thing. Vehicle registration, stamp duty, payroll tax, land tax, capital gains tax, fringe benefits tax. I don't want to miss one of these. The Medicare levy. See, when they don't want to call it a tax, they call it a levy. Medicare levy, the emergency services levy, council and water rates, and they waste most of it. What about an anti-tax policy? Pete, do you reckon that might fly?
I'd vote for it.
Yeah, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? And as Abraham Lincoln so wisely said, I don't know when it was, 1861 or something like that. Money is best left in the hands of those who earned it. It's weird, you know. It's sort of counterintuitive, but if government was smart, they'd go along with that. Because the truth is, the less tax that is demanded of us, the more governments collect. You know? I mean, that honestly is weird. And you can look it up. It's called the Laffer curve. Have a look at it. It's really interesting. I'll bet you there would not be one person in Parliament who's ever looked up the Laffer curve. And while we're talking about the budget, what do you think of $4 million plus a year to feed the pandas? And why is the federal government involved with pandas? $15,000 a week for bamboo. And this is along with the panda rent that we pay to the child. Did you think that we had the pandas for nothing? No, we pay the Chinese. It's $2 or $3 million a year. And we feed them. Is this sustainable? Do you think it's worth it? 0491 65 68 60 on Friday morning from 9 o'clock till 12. You might like to comment on that. Professor Plimer will be there, unless, of course, we have an earthquake between now and then. And then we'll be both too busy. There's a great guy called Andrew Matthews, internationally famous author and speaker. He's just written a book because he illustrates as well as writes. He's written a new book called Bouncing Back. We'll talk about that. Senator Bob Day, the great Phil Ackman, and who knows who else is going to turn up around the dining room table. JeremyCordeaux.com live streaming. We're here with the best wishes of the Rising Sun Inn. 60 Bridge Street at Kensington. Their telephone number is 8333 0721. It's always a good idea to ring Grant or Jackie and book if you're going in for lunch or dinner, or you're looking for a venue for a party or a launch or something like that. They'll really look after you. The Rising Sun Inn, regularly chosen as the best pub or inn in South Australia. And having been built back in 1845, this is a very big year for them. And our other sponsor, Jim Elder Fine Art, the Fine Art Gallery in Melbourne Street, North Adelaide, two wonderful buildings, 106 and 110. Don't hold me to that. Yes, I'm pretty sure, 106 and 110 Melbourne Street, North Adelaide. And a big auction coming up, the first of the year. You can talk to Jim or his lovely wife Helen on 08, if you're out of town, 08, then it's 8267 2869. And they'd be very happy to give you an appraisal of a piece of art that you're, I don't know, questioning or doubtful about, or wondering whether or not it could make your day. It might. Notable paintings he's looking for, the first of the 4 auctions for this year coming up. I wonder why, talking about taxes and stuff like that, I wonder why the government can't keep better control of its spending. Of course, there's the notorious NDIS, which costs us about the same as our entire defence department, in charge of defending the very country. But everything the government seems to touch is a problem. The mess that is childcare, aged care, health care, all things infrastructure, submarines, frigates, talk, excuses, more waste, then perhaps an inquiry or a royal commission, and there's more money. But nothing. Nothing in the long run. It's business as usual. Yes, Minister. Yes, I mean, a lot of people thought it was a great comedy. I frankly thought it was a tragedy. It's all in the eye of the beholder, I suppose. Frank sent me this. Pardon me, Frank Sebastian. 1975, a mad socialist Prime Minister, Whitlam, with a treasurer named Jim, wrecks the economy and gets kicked out of office. 2025, a mad socialist Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, with a treasurer named Jim, wrecks the economy and gets kicked out of office. Frank, very funny. I don't know whether that's going to come true or not. Anyway, we'll see. Going on for quite a while in Victoria has been a thing called a truth-telling Royal Commission. You might not have heard about it, might not have sought information on it. The truth-telling Royal Commission. You know what a Royal Commission costs? $50,000 to $100,000 a day. Its purpose, apart from costing a fortune, has been to determine what harm was done by colonisation. What harm was done by colonisation? As far as I can see, it's all about a backdoor The Voice. Really. These activists are unbelievable. Believe me, believe me. What is it about no they don't understand? Or doesn't democracy count for anything? Now, if you saw Four Corners last week, you know exactly what I meant. A truly black armband view of Australian history. Look, let's not mince words or gloss things over. The Aboriginals lost their country. Sad, but that's history. Every country in the world has changed hands over and over and over and over again. And people and generations move on. I'm sure there were bad things, terrible things that were done on both sides. But how is it possible that such a publicly funded, expensive inquiry can be allowed to argue from the conclusion that colonisation was evil, bad and cruel? I thought you were there to find out, not to dictate. What about the benefits, the advancement, the advantages? If left alone by everyone, and that would have been highly unlikely and probably undesirable, arguably undesirable, where would Aboriginals be today? Now, you know, I don't call them First Nations people. There was no nation. There was no nation. You can look this up, Google it. There were over 500 individual groups or tribes or mobs, each with its own language, customs and laws. Over 60,000 years, they remained backward, virtually Stone Age. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. They were hunters and gatherers. Nothing wrong with that either. A subsistence way of life. I know a lot of hippies who want and enjoyed a subsistence way of life. They missed, the Aboriginals missed the Iron Age while sitting on mountains of the stuff. They remained primitive or, primitive. Let's say unsophisticated. Didn't even invent the wheel. Had no need for it. Clothes? Nope. No written or common language, even among themselves. No gunpowder. Health must have been a huge problem. Colonisation has brought civilization, as most of the world knew it, with, I admit, good and bad, you know, even the diseases, measles and, you know, things. But it also came with opportunity, education, science, medicine, the rule of law, democracy, entitlement and enlightenment. Longevity? I don't know what the average life of an Aboriginal would have been in 1650 or 1700. Colonisation brought agriculture, technology, flight, colonialism, like the world generally, has good and bad aspects. A bit like human nature itself, ladies and gentlemen. The major problem facing the Aboriginal people, which was not touched upon by the story on the ABC, the problem facing Aboriginal people seems to be, for 3% of the population, the amount of public money that is provided is disproportionate to the number of people involved. So I ask you, and Aboriginal people should be asking the same question: where does the money go? Jacinta Price wants to ask that question, and she does often. 47 billion a year, as I said, about the same size as the defence budget. $47 billion a year. Not only have these people been weaponised by the activists, they have been screwed. And I include the ABC, who have not helped. The people are being robbed by what I call the Aboriginal industry. A big chunk of money, a huge amount of money, went on this truth-telling inquiry. For example, political window dressing. The money could have been better spent on the people and the children. To accuse and chastise a generation of Australians who had nothing to do with any of this stuff is wrong. If there are aspects of modern Australia that you don't like, and I'm talking to white Australia and black Australia, Aboriginals today have, as we all do, freedom of choice. We can turn our back on modern life, but we can't turn our back on history. We can't undo it. This is the age in which we live. But it's a big country, and any of us who choose to live off the grid.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Find a remote, untouched part of the country and do our own thing. You don't have to be part of something you don't like, but just stop complaining and costing without contributing. It's a great line. If you can't lend a hand, get out of the way. The times, they are a-changing. Words of Bob Dylan. I don't know how much time I've got left, Pete. Well, just quickly, I'll leave you with this. A survey released yesterday, because you're viewing this on Facebook on Monday, and Andy Martin will have this on his podcast loop or collection of outlets. I'm not sure who they are, but there are a lot of them out there. Thank you, Andy. You do a great job. A survey released yesterday by the Catholic University into violence in schools is both enlightening and frightening. 2,184 teachers, including principals, half the principals, and 55% of the teachers are preparing to leave the profession. Why? Because of violence. Real violence or the threat of violence. Violence in schools? The survey doesn't reveal it. But how did we get to this point?
Spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yeah, well, there's also the thing too that, as the twig is bent, so shall grow the tree. Where teachers live and work in fear, this is not acceptable. Particularly when the threat comes not only from the students, but from the parents as well. I mean, apparently the parents go into the schools and they poke the teachers in the chest. Well, what's the teacher doing? He's probably doing his or her job. Let's talk more about that on Friday around the dining room table, if you're in the mood. 0491 65 68 60, jeremycordeaux.com. Live streaming. It'll be a good, busy morning, I suspect. Now, let me wish you a happy birthday, if you're having a birthday, or a happy wedding anniversary. Oh God, it's the 1st of April. Did you? Oh, I forgot. You shouldn't forget the 1st of April. Golly. Gary, did you remember that?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. 1st of April. Google introduces Gmail. The launch is met with skepticism on account of the launch date. That was in 2004. Nescafe introduces their flagship brand in Switzerland. Nescafe, 43 beans in every... Anyway, that was in 1938. Had no idea they went back that far. 1927, the first automatic record changer introduced by HMV. His master's voice. Can you imagine an automatic record player changer back in 1927? Never seen such a thing. Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs found Apple Computer in the garage of Jobs' parents' house in California. I can just hear them saying, "Listen, Steve, when are you going to get that stuff out of the garage so I can get the bloody car in?" That was it, only in 1976. That was the year I came to Adelaide from 2GB. Golly, 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 golly. The first dishwashing machine was marketed in Chicago, but the date is fascinating. The 1st of April, 1889. Wow. Golly. The first weather satellite was launched in 1960. The world's first smelling TV screen April the 1st is unveiled in Japan in 2013. Debbie Reynolds, the lovely Debbie Reynolds, she was a frequent guest on my show on 5DN many times. Lovely, lovely, lovely lady. She was born animal lover too, Pete. You'd be interested to know that. Was born in El Paso, Texas. American actress, singer and collector. She had the most amazing collection of memorabilia, you know, movie stuff, which sold for millions when she died. The unsinkable Molly Brown, Singing in the Rain, died after her daughter Carrie Fisher was found dead. She died the day after Carrie Fisher was found dead. She didn't kill herself or anything, she just died. That was in, well, she was born in 1932. Not sure of the date of her death. New Orleans businessman Oliver Pollack creates the S with the two stripes through it, the dollar sign. So the dollar sign, dollar symbol, was born on this day in 1778. What a obscure question that would be. Oliver Pollack, P-O-L-L-O-C-K. If ever you want to stump somebody with a bit of trivia, there it is. Nazi Germany begins the persecution of Jews by boycotting Jewish businesses in 1933. The world's biggest glass oven is used in 1957, doesn't tell me what for. Ali MacGraw, American actress, love story, Goodbye Columbus, was born 1939. Cincinnati becomes the first U.S. city to employ full-time professional firefighters. This was the day. 1853 was the year. The Battle of Okinawa. U.S. ground forces invade Okinawa during World War II in the largest amphibious assault of the Pacific War. It was they lost so many people because the Japs just would not surrender. They were very tenacious. They had to fight for every single inch. This battle, on this day in 1945, 1st of April, gave birth to that incredible, iconic, not only painting, but it's a statue as well, of all of these Marines who are putting the stars and stripes up. They're gathered around the flag, pushing it up with great pride. Cost them dearly to get it there. Wow. Dear oh dear. Marvin Gaye was shot dead by his father. 1984. John Lennon and Yoko Ono release a hoax. They were having a dual sex change operation on this day in 1970. April Fool's Day, I suppose. 1973, John Lennon and Yoko Ono form a new country with no laws or boundaries called Newtopia. Its national anthem. What do you think the national anthem was, Pete?
I don't know.
Gary?
Give peace a chance.
No, silence. They were truly mad people. Mad people. The ruins of Pompeii were rediscovered. And we got to get out of here, haven't we? John Forsyth was born. He dies at 92 in 2010. Helena Rubinstein, Polish-American cosmetic manufacturing queen, dies at 92 on this day in 1965. The first radio tube, I guess that means valve, was made. Now that can't be right, that's 1935. What did they have before 1935 if they didn't have valves? Don't know. I'll have to ask on Friday around the dining room table. I'll have to ask Tony because he will know. He will probably have one of these. It would not surprise me. Anyway, look, gee whiz. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you, guys. Very much for coming in. Thank you for being with us in the garage. See you on Friday at 9 o'clock, or talk to you on Friday around the dining room table, jeremycordeaux.com, live streaming, and we'll have some interesting guests and a good time. Thank you for viewing The Court of Public Opinion. Believe in yourself. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Goodbye for now.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.